show powered by Mailchimp. We are here on the floor of Venture Atlanta, and fresh off this stage, the keynote stage, it's Ben Chestnut and Marty Flanagan. Welcome. Of course, Ben is CEO of Mailchimp. Marty is CEO of Invesco. And by the way, both companies are key sponsors of Venture Atlanta. And thank you for coming here, spending a few minutes with us here today. And I thought I'd start out, the fact that you're here, and both your companies are first of all, isn't it great to be in all this
real
buzz?
life? It's good to see you.
I know,
Man.
exactly.
It's been a while.
Yeah, real people.
Wow.
It's like no Zoom and nothing like that. But why is the innovation ecosystem, and not just why is it important, but why are you so much behind it and growing it? And Marty, let's start with you, because I know you've been a big supporter of it with Engage and many other things. Why is it so important for you as a corporate leader to be behind this innovation ecosystem?
Look, first of all, it's great for Atlanta, right? Building on the historical foundational elements, large corporations, the great universities, just the fundamental entrepreneurship. But if you are not involved in innovation these days, you're in a lot of trouble, right? We're at a stair-step challenge of opportunity and challenged by the revolution in technology and what's happening, and it's just really important for Atlanta to be successful for all of the companies that are here. And by the way, we do more than just in Atlanta, all of us. We're global firms, right. We need that.
Absolutely. And Ben, of course, you've kind of are living proof of the innovation ecosystem coming to life, obviously with Mailchimp. So what's been kind of key for you in terms of growing? I mean, and maybe better said, what is it you've been able to do in Atlanta that you probably couldn't do anyplace else as you grew Mailchimp?
Oh, hands down, the big thing for us about Atlanta is just the creative talent pool.
Okay.
I mean, because of all the huge consumer brands that are right here in Atlanta, like Coca-Cola, UPS, Delta, Chick-fil-A, and on and on and on and on, that attracts great creative agencies.
Right.
That attracts great creative schools. We've got Georgia Tech, we've got SCAD, Creative Circus, Portfolio Center, just on and on and on. And that attracts so many creative people,
right.
And that's people power companies, and so that's what's made us so successful over the years.
Yeah, that collision of creative and tech, I think people take for granted. It's very real in Atlanta, and sure we have movies and we have hardcore tech, but the blending of all that together is special.
It's a special culture that we have,
right,
that really allows innovation and creativity to thrive here.
Well, let's talk then a little bit about culture for both of you. Maybe starting with you, Ben. I mean, first of all, obviously, as we're continuing to get through the pandemic, and there's so much concerns of innovation and cultures of companies being suppressed, as leaders, how do you keep your culture alive, vibrant, and helping it focus on growth?
I think we're all learning as we go along. I think we're all kind of winging it. But what I've been really delighted by is I was scared of that, like innovation and creativity on the decline because we've all been quarantined for so long.
Right.
But our peeps have adapted. They have pivoted and found ways of being creative from home. They're setting up in-home studios, doing all kinds of amazing stuff. So, we've been really lucky. Creativity's up here. It's in your head anyway. And so our peeps have really adapted and thrived. And
your focus on small business too helped really rally be around small businesses during this time too.
It's a really, really strong purpose for people to get behind. You're right.
And Marty, I know that, when we did not know what was going on, I do remember there's a point on a call or something we were on where you talk about how your team really got to work and was becoming productive working from home. But how do you now, as you transition, maintain the culture and grow?
Yeah, look, I'd say that's the open question for everybody. What I will say for us and probably every company, what got us through was the culture of the firm that was already in place. We knew each other, we respected one another, we knew what mattered. So first taking care of each other, and we're in 25 countries on the ground, we have clients in 150. We had to take care of ourselves and the clients. Right. And that happened, right? And that's continued to evolve during this pandemic period. But what we do know is going forward, how the workforce is going to work is going to be different.
Right.
And I think anybody really thinks they know the answer, I'd step back and think about it a little bit. Right. Now we're doing a bunch of work on it. We know the path that we're on, but it'll continue to evolve. So being open-minded, but never forget, understand what your clients want.
Yep.
Take care of all of our colleagues.
Right. Now, to kind of tie into that as well too is talent. And this is, of course, with so many companies coming in, we have great universities. But what do you do to make sure you're competing for the best talent, Marty? Maybe starting with you.
Well, like any company, it has to be a place that, first of all, there has to be alignment of culture coming in, first of all. So you can be a really talented person, but if it's a misalignment of culture. It's not going to work for anybody. So that's the first point. But secondly, talent wants to go where they can thrive, where they have an opportunity to grow and make a difference and help the company evolve with wherever the client base is going. And I think that's just really fundamental.
How about you, Ben?
I mean, this is something that we learned from bootstrapping for 20-something years,
right.
and not having a gigantic budget to set up a big booth at the big universities. You cast a wide net. Creative people are everywhere.
Right.
We turned over every stone looking for creative talent. It really helps to build a great brand that attracts talent. It really helps to convey what your mission is, what your North Star of your business, and it really helps that it's something like empowering small businesses to grow. I mean, that
Right.
attracts a
Absolutely.
lot of very
Mission, vision,
yes,
purpose,
yes,
what you're doing.
that's what it is. Yes.
So finally, as we wrap up here, let's talk about going back to Atlanta. And I would love to think about what is the Atlanta X factor? And by the way, it could be as much for your business, it could be for even personally, I mean, just living here. What's that X factor you think people just don't know about or should know about Atlanta?
I mean, for me, it's the creative. It's the creativity of the city. It's just thriving. I love that about Atlanta, and that's where we get all of our talent from.
How about you, Marty?
So those foundational things are real. They're very meaningful. But what I would add, since I've been here now 16 years, when I first came, you're sort of obligated to make a difference in the community. And so it creates this glue and it creates energy and people participate and everybody feeds on one another. So it's a pretty special place.
Yeah, and it's interesting for what kind of building on both of you have been saying throughout this morning, even on stage here at Venture Atlanta, this collaborative nature we have in Atlanta as well, all the people coming together.
Yeah.
We take it for granted here.
Is it Southern hospitality? Is that what this is?
Yeah, maybe it's a new economy version of Southern hospitality. Right? Let's collaborate, build.
Right.
Well, thanks to both of you. First of all, for what you do here at Venture Atlanta, for what you do for Atlanta, and what you do for your teams. We appreciate your time, and thank you for all those who keep watching here, the Atlanta Innovation Studio powered by Mailchimp, and we'll be back with an amazing lineup of guests here today at Venture Atlanta and tomorrow at A3C.
Thank you.
Powered by Mailchimp. We are here on the floor of Venture Atlanta, and fresh off the stage, of the keynote stage, it's Ben Chestnut and Marty Flanagan. Welcome. Of course, Ben is CEO of Mailchimp, Marty is CEO of Invesco. And by the way, both companies are key sponsors of Venture Atlanta, and thank you for coming here, spending a few minutes with us here today. And I thought I'd start out, the fact that you're here, and both your companies are first of all, isn't it great to be in all
real
life?
It's good to see
you. I know,
man.
exactly.
It's been a while.
Yeah, real people.
Wow.
It's like no Zoom and nothing like that. But why is the innovation ecosystem, and not just why is it important, but why are you so much behind it and growing it? And Marty, let's start with you, because I know you've been a big supporter of it with Engage and many other things. Why is it so important for you as a corporate leader to be behind this innovation ecosystem?
Look, first of all, it's great for Atlanta, right? Building on the historical foundational elements, large corporations, the great universities, just the fundamental entrepreneurship. But if you are not involved in innovation these days, you're in a lot of trouble, right? We're at a stair-step challenge of opportunity and challenged by the revolution in technology and what's happening, and it's just really important for Atlanta to be successful for all of the companies that are here. And by the way, we do more than just in Atlanta, all of us. We're global firms, right. We need that.
Absolutely. And Ben, of course, you kind of are living proof of the innovation ecosystem coming to life, obviously with Mailchimp. So what's been kind of key for you in terms of growing? I mean, and maybe better said, what is it you've been able to do in Atlanta that you probably couldn't do anyplace else when as you grew Mailchimp?
Oh, hands down, the big thing for us about Atlanta is just the creative talent pool.
Okay.
I mean, because of all the huge consumer brands that are right here in Atlanta, like Coca-Cola, UPS, Delta, Chick-fil-A, and on and on and on and on, that attracts great creative agencies.
Right.
That attracts great creative schools. We've got Georgia Tech, we've got SCAD, Creative Circus, Portfolio Center, just on and on and on. And that attracts so many creative people,
right?
And that's people power companies, and so that's what's made us so successful over the years.
Yeah, that collision of creative and tech, I think people take for granted. It's very real in Atlanta, and sure we have movies and we have hardcore tech, but the blending of all that together is special.
It's a special culture that we have,
right?
That really allows innovation and creativity to thrive here.
Well, let's talk then a little bit about culture for both of you. Maybe starting with you, Ben. I mean, first of all, obviously, as we're continuing to get through the pandemic, and there's so much concerns of innovation and cultures of companies being suppressed, as leaders, how do you keep your culture alive, vibrant, and helping it focus on growth?
Man, I think we're all learning as we go along. I think we're all kind of winging it. But what I've been really delighted by is I was scared of that, like innovation and creativity on the decline, because we've all been quarantined for so long.
Right.
But our peeps have adapted. They have pivoted and found ways of being creative from home. They're setting up in-home studios, doing all kinds of amazing stuff. So, we've been really lucky. Creativity's up here. It's in your head anyway. And so our peeps have really adapted and thrived.
And your focus in small business too helped really rally be around small businesses during this time
it's
too.
A really, really strong purpose for people to get behind. Right.
And Marty, I know that, when we did not know what was going on, I do remember there's a point on a call or something or on where you talk about how your team really got to work and was becoming productive working from home. But how do you now, as you transition, maintain the culture and grow?
Yeah, look, I'd say that's the open question for everybody. What I will say for us and probably every company, what got us through was the culture of the firm that was already in place. We knew each other, we respected one another, we knew what mattered. So first taking care of each other, and we're in 25 countries on the ground, we have clients in 150. We had to take care of ourselves and the clients, and that happened, right? And that's continued to evolve during this pandemic period. But what we do know is going forward, how the workforce is going to work is going to be different.
Right.
And I think anybody really thinks they know the answer, I'd step back and think about it a little bit. Now we're doing a bunch of work on it. We know the path that we're on, but it'll continue to evolve. So being open-minded, but never forget, understand what your clients want.
Yep.
Take care of all of our colleagues.
Right. Now, to kind of tie into that as well too is talent. And this is, of course, with so many companies coming in, we have great universities. But what do you do to make sure you're competing for the best talent, Marty? Maybe starting with you.
Well, like any company, it has to be a place that, first of all, there has to be alignment of culture coming in, first of all. So you can be a really talented person, but if it's a misalignment of culture, it's not going to work for anybody. So that's the first point. But secondly, talent wants to go where they can thrive, where they have an opportunity to grow and make a difference and help the company evolve with wherever the client base is going. And I think that's just really fundamental.
How about you, Ben?
I mean, this is something that we learned from bootstrapping for 20-something years, and not having a gigantic budget to set up a big booth at the big universities. You cast a wide net. Creative people are everywhere. We turned over every stone looking for creative talent. It really helps to build a great brand that attracts talent. It really helps to convey what your mission is, what your North Star of your business, and it really helps that it's something like empowering small businesses to grow. I mean, that attracts a lot of very, very...
mission, vision, purpose, what you're doing.
That's what it is. Yes.
So finally, as we wrap up here, let's talk about going back to Atlanta. And I would love to think about what is the Atlanta X factor? And by the way, it could be as much for your business, it could be for even personally, I mean, just living here. What's that X factor you think people just don't know about or should know about Atlanta?
I mean, for me, it's the creative. It's the creativity of the city. It's just thriving. I love that about Atlanta, and that's where we get all of our talent from.
How about you, Marty?
So those foundational things are real. They're very meaningful. But what I would add, since I've been here now 16 years, when I first came, you're sort of obligated to make a difference in the community. And so it creates this glue and it creates energy and people participate and everybody feeds on one another. So it's a pretty special place. Yeah,
and it's interesting for what kind of building on both of you have been saying throughout this morning, even on stage here at Venture Atlanta, this collaborative nature we have in Atlanta as well, all the people coming together. Yeah. We take it for granted here.
Is it Southern hospitality? Is that what this is?
Yeah, maybe it's a new economy version of Southern hospitality. Right? Let's collaborate, build.
Right.
Well, thanks to both of you. First of all, for what you do here at Venture Atlanta, for what you do for Atlanta, and what you do for your teams. We appreciate your time, and thank you for all those who keep watching here, the Atlanta Innovation Studio powered by Mailchimp, and we'll be back with an amazing lineup of guests here today at Venture Atlanta and tomorrow at A3C. Hello everyone and welcome to the Atlanta Innovation Studio powered by Mailchimp. We are here on the floor of Venture Atlanta and fresh off this stage, the keynote stage, Ben Chestnut and Marty Flanagan. Welcome. Of course, Ben is CEO of Mailchimp, Marty is CEO of Invesco. And by the way, both companies are key sponsors of Venture Atlanta, and thank you for coming here, spending a few minutes with us here today. And I thought I'd start out, the fact that you're here, and both your companies are first of all, isn't it great to be in
real life? It's good to see you.
I know, exactly.
It's been a while.
Yeah, real people.
Wow.
It's like no Zoom and nothing like that. But why is the innovation ecosystem, and not just why is it important, but why are you so much behind it and growing it? And Marty, let's start with you, because I know you've been a big supporter of it with Engage and many other things. Why is it so important for you as a corporate leader to be behind this innovation ecosystem?
Look, first of all, it's great for Atlanta, right? Building on the historical foundational elements, large corporations, the great universities, just the fundamental entrepreneurship. But if you are not involved in innovation these days, you're in a lot of trouble, right? We're at a stair-step challenge of opportunity and challenged by the revolution in technology and what's happening, and it's just really important for Atlanta to be successful for all of the companies that are here. And by the way, we do more than just in Atlanta, all of us. We're global firms, we need that.
Absolutely. And Ben, of course, you've kind of are living proof of the innovation ecosystem coming to life, obviously with Mailchimp. So what's been kind of key for you in terms of growing? I mean, and maybe better said, what is it you've been able to do in Atlanta that you probably couldn't do anyplace else as you grew Mailchimp?
Oh, hands down, the big thing for us about Atlanta is just the creative talent pool.
Okay.
I mean, because of all the huge consumer brands that are right here in Atlanta, like Coca-Cola, UPS, Delta, Chick-fil-A, and on and on and on and on, that attracts great creative agencies. That attracts great creative schools. We've got Georgia Tech, we've got SCAD, Creative Circus, Portfolio Center, just on and on and on. And that attracts so many creative people. And that's people power companies, and so that's what's made us so successful over the years.
Yeah, that collision of creative and tech, I think people take for granted. It's very real in Atlanta. And sure, we have movies and we have hardcore tech, but the blending of all that together is special.
It's a special culture that we have that really allows innovation and creativity to thrive here.
Well, let's talk then a little bit about culture for both of you, maybe starting with you, Ben. I mean, first of all, obviously, as we're continuing to get through the pandemic, and there's so much concerns of innovation and cultures of companies being suppressed, as leaders, how do you keep your culture alive, vibrant, and helping it focus on growth?
Man, I think we're all learning as we go along. I think we're all kind of winging it. But what I've been really delighted by is I was scared of that, like innovation and creativity on the decline because we've all been quarantined for so long.
Right.
But our peeps have adapted. They have pivoted and found ways of being creative from home. They're setting up in-home studios, doing all kinds of amazing stuff. So, we've been really lucky. Creativity's up here. It's in your head anyway. And so our peeps have really adapted and thrived.
And your focus on small business too helped really be around small businesses during this time
it's
too.
A really, really strong purpose for people to get behind. You're right.
And Marty, I know that, when we did not know what was going on, I do remember there's a point on a call or something or on where you talk about how your team really got to work and was becoming productive working from home. But how do you now, as you transition, maintain the culture and grow?
Yeah, look, I'd say that's the open question for everybody. What I will say for us and probably every company, what got us through was the culture of the firm that was already in place. We knew each other, we respected one another, we knew what mattered. So first taking care of each other, and we're in 25 countries on the ground, we have clients in 150. We had to take care of ourselves and the clients. And that happened, right? And that's continued to evolve during this pandemic period. But what we do know is going forward, how the workforce is going to work is going to be different. And I think anybody really thinks they know the answer, I'd step back and think about it a little bit. Now we're doing a bunch of work on it. We know the path that we're on, but it'll continue to evolve. So being open-minded, but never forget, understand what your clients want. Take care of all of our colleagues.
Right. Now, to kind of tie into that as well too is talent. And this is, of course, with so many companies coming in, we have great universities. But what do you do to make sure you're competing for the best talent, Marty? Maybe starting with you.
Well, like any company, it has to be a place that, first of all, there has to be alignment of culture coming in, first of all. So you can be a really talented person, but if it's a misalignment of culture, it's not going to work for anybody. So that's the first point. But secondly, talent wants to go where they can thrive, where they have an opportunity to grow and make a difference and help the company evolve with wherever the client base is going. And I think that's just really fundamental.
How about you, Ben?
This is something that we learned from bootstrapping for 20-something years, and not having a gigantic budget to set up a big booth at the big universities. You cast a wide net. Creative people are everywhere. And we turned over every stone looking for creative talent. It really helps to build a great brand that attracts talent. It really helps to convey what your mission is, what your North Star of your business, and it really helps that it's something like empowering small businesses to grow. That attracts a lot of very, very...
mission, vision, purpose, what you're doing.
That's what it is.
So finally, as we wrap up here, let's talk about going back to Atlanta. And I would love to think about what is the Atlanta X factor? And by the way, it could be as much for your business, it could be for even personally, just living here. What's that X factor you think people just don't know about or should know about Atlanta?
For me, it's the creative. It's the creativity of the city. It's just thriving. I love that about Atlanta, and that's where we get all of our talent from.
How about you, Marty?
So those foundational things are real. They're very meaningful. But what I would add, since I've been here now 16 years, when I first came, you're sort of obligated to make a difference in the community. And so it creates this glue and it creates energy and people participate and everybody feeds on one another. So it's a pretty special place.
Yeah, and it's interesting for what kind of building on both of you have been saying throughout this morning, even on stage here at Venture Atlanta, this collaborative nature we have in Atlanta as well, all the people coming together. We take it for granted here.
Is it Southern hospitality? Is that what this is?
Yeah, maybe it's a new economy version of Southern hospitality. Right? Let's collaborate, build.
Right.
Well, thanks to both of you. First of all, for what you do here at Venture Atlanta, for what you do for Atlanta, and what you do for your teams. We appreciate your time, and thank you for all those who keep watching here, the Atlanta Innovation Studio powered by Mailchimp, and we'll be back with an amazing lineup of guests here today at Venture Atlanta and tomorrow at A3C. Hello everyone and welcome to the Atlanta Innovation Innovation Studio, powered by Mailchimp. We are here on the floor of Venture Atlanta, and fresh off this stage, the keynote stage, it's Ben Chestnut and Marty Flanagan.
Yeah.
Welcome. Of course, Ben is CEO of Mailchimp, Marty is CEO of Invesco. And by the way, both companies are key sponsors of Venture Atlanta, and thank you for coming here, spending a few minutes with us here today. And I thought I'd start out, the fact that you're here, and both your companies are first of all, isn't it great to be in all this
real
buzz?
life? It's good to see
I
you,
know,
man.
exactly.
It's been a while.
Yeah, real people.
Wow.
It's like no Zoom and
Exactly.
nothing like that. But why is the innovation ecosystem, and not just why is it important, but why are you so much behind it and growing it? And Marty, let's start with you, because I know you've been a big supporter of it with Engage and many other things. Why is it so important for you as a corporate leader to be behind this innovation ecosystem?
Yeah, look, first of all, it's great for Atlanta, right? Building on the historical foundational elements, large corporations, the great universities, just the fundamental entrepreneurship. But if you are not involved in innovation these days, you're in a lot of trouble, right? We're at a stair-step challenge of opportunity and challenged by the revolution in technology and what's happening, and it's just really important for Atlanta to be successful for all of the companies that are here. And by the way, we do more than just in Atlanta, all of us. We're global firms, right. We need that.
Absolutely. And Ben, of course, you've kind of are living proof of the innovation ecosystem coming to life, obviously with Mailchimp. So what's been kind of key for you in terms of growing? I mean, and maybe better said, what is it you've been able to do in Atlanta that you probably couldn't do anyplace else as you grew Mailchimp?
Oh, hands down, the big thing for us about Atlanta is just the creative talent pool.
Okay. Yeah.
Because of all the huge consumer brands that are right here in Atlanta, like Coca-Cola, UPS, Delta, Chick-fil-A, and on and on and on and on, that attracts great creative agencies.
Right.
That attracts great creative schools. We've got Georgia Tech, we've got SCAD, Creative Circus, Portfolio Center, just on and on and on. And that attracts so many creative people.
Right.
And that's people power companies, and so that's what's made us so successful over the years.
Yeah, that collision of creative and tech, I think people take for granted. It's very real in Atlanta. And sure, we have movies and we have hardcore tech, but the blending of all that together is special.
It's a special culture that we have that really allows innovation and creativity to thrive here.
Well, let's talk then a little bit about culture for both of you, maybe starting with you, Ben. I mean, first of all, obviously, as we're continuing to get through the pandemic, and there's so much concerns of innovation and cultures of companies being suppressed, as leaders, how do you keep your culture alive, vibrant, and helping it focus on growth?
Man, I think we're all learning as we go along. I think we're all kind of winging it. But what I've been really delighted by is I was scared of that, like innovation and creativity on the decline because we've all been quarantined for so long.
Right.
But our peeps have adapted. They have pivoted and found ways of being creative from home. They're setting up in-home studios, doing all kinds of amazing stuff. So, we've been really lucky. Creativity's up here. It's in your head anyway. And so our peeps have really adapted and thrived.
And your focus on small business too helped really rally be around small businesses during this time
it's
too.
A really, really strong purpose for people to get behind. You're right.
And Marty, I know that, when we did not know what was going on, I do remember there's a point on a call or something we were on where you talk about how your team really got to work and was becoming productive working from home. But how do you now, as you transition, maintain the culture and grow?
Yeah, look, I'd say that's the open question for everybody. What I will say for us and probably every company, what got us through was the culture of the firm that was already in place. We knew each other, we respected one another, we knew what mattered. So first taking care of each other, and we're in 25 countries on the ground, we have clients in 150. We had to take care of ourselves and the clients.
Right.
And that happened, right? And that's continued to evolve during this pandemic period. But what we do know is going forward, how the workforce is going to work is going to be different.
Right.
And I think anybody really
are back live from the floor of Venture Atlanta for the Atlanta Innovation Studio, powered by Mailchimp. I'm Alex Gonzalez, the Chief Innovation Officer for the Metro Atlanta Chamber. And with me, I have Mikkel Thomas. I want to say one of our new neighbors in Atlanta with Visa.
True. Yes.
Hey, so first of all, tell me about your role at Visa.
Yes, so I have the honor of being a part of our inclusive client partnership team.
Okay.
Where we're really targeting and focusing on how we really change the way we work with diverse communities, especially in the partnership space. From our neobanks, our fintechs, we want to make sure that we're actively making a consolidated effort to be a part of that business.
Okay, so then obviously, we're like the fintech capital here in Atlanta. Yes. I'm thinking that's a big reason for Visa coming here. So talk a little bit about that in terms of Visa, of course, coming here to Atlanta, which is great, and kind of your role and why it's important to do that all here in Atlanta.
Definitely. I think we're a purpose-driven organization, and we really want to be for everyone everywhere. And so the opportunity to come to Atlanta is the space. It's really booming here. Yeah. From the fintech space to the banking space, there's a lot of beautiful activity happening in this ecosystem, and we want to be a part of that.
Right.
Also, it's a great city. Rich diversity in history, and in that effort also it's an opportunity for us to tap into some of this network, this talent pool, while also showing how we actually are for everyone everywhere. So it hits us on two fronts mainly, but it's a really good time and a good place to be.
And so let's talk about talent a little bit too. So talk about, because that's of course the hottest thing now is attracting and keeping talent. What's kind of the thing you think that people or companies need to do, or Visa does, to make sure you kind of get that top talent and that top technical talent especially?
Definitely. I think one thing that we're really working really well on is belonging and making sure that people from all diversity, ages, genders, ethnicities, can feel like they're a part of something bigger than themselves and welcome as who they are in their most authentic selves. Right. And that's something that we're doing internally as a culture so that we can express that externally to truly be for everyone everywhere. Right. So we're a network of networks. So we got to be strong with the pieces of the chain internally as we continue to strengthen those externally.
Now this is your second time in Atlanta, correct?
This is my second stint in Atlanta. I was honored to serve this community as a firefighter in Clayton County.
Wow.
And to now come back after studying abroad for a period of time and to serve in a whole new capacity. So I'm really excited about this opportunity. Serving is nothing new. I've represented my nation at 3 Olympic Games, and now I have the opportunity to serve my community in partnerships.
I was going to ask you about that. You're not going to get away with this. So what's this whole Olympian thing that you have on your, on your LinkedIn profile?
I mean, just slide that in there.
Just slide that in there, yeah.
I mean, it's really cool. Again, more props to Visa as an organization because of our Olympic partnerships, and including our NFL partnerships where we just started. We have an opportunity for athletes to enter into the corporate world, and I'm a product of that.
Oh, great.
And so all of the amazing soft set of skills that an athlete gains from the world of sports, we're literally like a perfect seed which places us in the right organization, in the right atmosphere. You're going to get someone who can work hard, dedicated, self-starting, teamwork. The things that it would take years to learn, this person has in them automatically. Yeah. And so to be a part of a program like the Olympic Paralympic Business Development Program and now our NFL program as well, we're bringing athletes in to give them an opportunity to truly be assets to the organization and society.
And so what events?
Track and field is my baby, the 110-meter hurdle, so I can say I've ran into burning buildings and cleared obstacles for a living.
I was about to say, I don't know which could be more difficult, running the burning buildings or clearing the hurdles at full speed.
Just don't do it at the same time.
Exactly. Well, I did want to go back, in terms of, this is your second time in Atlanta, so talk a little bit about the differences you're seeing, because I mean, I'll be honest with you, even for me, living here for a little while now, when you kind of really think about it, it's really boomed over the last 18 months.
Definitely.
But it's really work that's been happening for the last couple decades. But what have you really noticed?
Let's just say there's companies that are here that wasn't here 2 years ago.
Yes, that is true.
That's the beautiful thing about tech. It moves faster than we do sometimes. Yeah. But this is, again, kind of becoming a hub for the Southeast. So anything that's happening from Miami to Charlotte, and there's a lot of activity, especially in our banking space in those cities, Atlanta's really showing itself. And again, having diverse thought, diverse backgrounds, and diverse experiences, but still really in that central core business, I think it's an amazing time to be in the city.
Yeah, no, it is, and it is. It seems like every week a new company's coming in.
Brand new.
And of course, all the new startups that are being born, and a lot happening in fintech as well too, with different companies. So it's definitely an exciting time. All right, so before we wrap up here, now getting more personal, what's your favorite restaurant now?
Ooh, okay, I'm going to have to go to an Atlanta original. I'm going to say JR Cricket.
Oh boy, you are going to the original.
That's one of my classics.
You're gonna have to find stuff now near your beautiful facility, which will be in Midtown there, right
yes,
in the middle of everything there.
Hey, there's one walking distance. I'll be happy, man.
Yeah, that's right. That's good. It'd be good. Well, thanks. Well, thank you for welcome back to Atlanta. I know it's been a little bit, but welcome back to Atlanta. It's great to have you here. Great to have Visa here in Atlanta. We're looking forward to it as we continue being the leader in fintech and just tech in general.
Glad to be here. Glad to engage. Yes, sir.
And thanks, everybody. And we will continue with a lot more activity today. In fact, we're going to, in a few minutes here, we're going to be talking about brands here in Atlanta. So we'll continue to broadcast live from A3C. I'm sorry, from Venture Atlanta. Tomorrow will be A3C.
Thank you.
back. We are live at the Atlanta Innovation Studio powered by Mailchimp. My name is Lakeith Taylor, Senior Vice President, Brand Marketing and Creative at the Metro Atlanta Chamber. I am joined today by two very special guests who I have the pleasure of knowing. Bim Joyner of Atlanta Influences Everything, and Brandon Butler of Butter ATL. I'm going to let them talk about their brands a little bit. We're going to get into a really interesting conversation today about culture. But before we get into that, just want to ask both of you, like, how are you doing personally? How's everything in life for you?
And we're just getting to know each other. So we got a lot to build on. You know, my partner Tori well. Yep. So my name is Bane, pronounced like name, but Bane. Yep. But it means peace in Swahili. It's a long story. But my middle name means warrior. It's Ali. So my life is built around my name. My last name is Joyner. Okay. So peaceful warrior who joins people is kind of like how I live. With that said,
Tori missed me on the memo with that. So.
Oh yeah. See, that's what we got to build. Yeah. Shout out to my partner Tori Edwards, my partner Ian Ford, who I co-founded Atlanta Influences Everything with. But yeah, I'm doing well. Rode a scooter over here from Auburn Avenue. Went to the wrong buildings. Cynthia Curry came and saved me. So yeah, I got water. Just happy to be here. Thank you for having me. Yeah, and absolutely. We're Brandon. I like Brandon.
Yeah, man. Happy to be here too. Just coming off a little 2-week vacation. You know, it's been a good year for Butter and for Atlanta, but it's been a busy year. So I just tell everybody out there, you know, I know we all going hard. We know we all doing everything we can to help, you know, put Atlanta on a pedestal and represent the culture, but you do got to take some time for yourself every once in a while. So coming off a nice little vacation, you know, had a chance to clear my mind, get some new perspectives, see some new things, and really came back, you know, ready to attack this fourth quarter, man, and make it happen.
Absolutely, man. Now, it's a beautiful thing, man. I know a lot of these conversations have been kind of rooted around pandemic, how business and culture and community has shifted. But I just want to kind of start at the beginning for both of y'all. Like, you know, you kind of at the helm of two very iconic brands, right, that I think represent the culture and the story of Atlanta. So I just want to talk about the original vision for a second. So I want to start with you. Atlanta Influences Everything. I mean, the name speaks for itself. Kind of talk to me about how you guys built the brand. What was the original kind of vision for it?
Also start by saying I can't wait to hear the origin story that Brandon is going to say. I want to see what he's, So, short and quick of it, in 2015, my partner Ian and I were running a brand company that helped, when brands wanted to market to consumers in this region, a lot of times they would get the Atlanta marketing campaign wrong. So we wanted to deal with brands to help them market in Atlanta. Nike was coming out with the 20th anniversary of the 1996 Olympic shoe. That, being from here, I sold water during the Olympics. Like that changed my city. And so we just knew that Nike was going to spend marketing dollars in Atlanta to do a great campaign. Wanted to get Billy Payne a shoe, get the Maynard Jackson family a shoe. Kasim was mayor at the time. We pitched a scavenger hunt that involved the Beltline and MARTA to Nike, where people could win these shoes based on the money that they spent in Chicago for the release of some Jordan 1s because of what Michael Jordan meant to Chicago.
Absolutely.
We were told by Nike, we had a homeboy up there, Chaos, who went to Doug High School actually. His higher-ups told him that Atlanta was not a valid and relevant enough market for that dollar spend. And at the same time when this was happening, what was happening in pop culture at the same time was the beginnings of and doing that to say that Nike didn't understand that and many other things were coming from here.
Born here,
in my frustration, I said, hey man, we don't have the bean like Chicago, we don't have this like LA or New York, but all I can tell you, man, is Atlanta Influences Everything. My partner Ian, being from Brooklyn, went to Morehouse, never went back to Brooklyn. He ran it through his Brooklyn meter and said, that could be kind of true. I never went back to Brooklyn. The problem with Atlanta is, though, we don't tell our story well. Is that Nike's fault? I still think it's Nike's fault. But what I realized that Office of Cultural Affairs, Atlanta Convention and Visitors Bureau, Metro Atlanta Chamber, Invest Atlanta, that they understood, but not enough to leverage the city's brand power to these big brands that were taking from our culture. And so while I was mad at Nike, it was like, well, damn, my little business, why are we even dealing with Nike? Why do I have to explain to them? Why the chamber is not standing with me saying, nah, yo, this is what we finna do in the market. So we did the shirt, Atlanta Influences Everything, and then my partner Tori came on and said, hey, we need to make this beyond the shirt. This needs to be a movement and a mantra that we build a business behind, and that's how the company was started.
Got it. Yeah, appreciate you for that. Yeah. Brandon?
Yeah, man. Butter was kind of born out of actually an agency out here called Dagger, and I just want to clear some things because a lot of people think there's some body behind me, pulling the strings or telling us what to do. But I got to be honest, authentically, I've been able to really kind of build and run this brand in a way that I've always felt like represents Atlanta culture.
Absolutely.
Really autonomously, right? But, when we kind of first started it, really the idea was just Atlanta needs to, kind of like what Bame just said, like Atlanta needs to be able to, it's never had a chance to tell its own stories.
Yeah.
I've worked in, marketing, I've been in agencies for a long time, and I've seen it happen. Like I've wrote the checks, I've seen how the checks get cut. Before I was there, I was the VP of Digital at Edelman, which is the biggest PR firm in the world. Before I was there, I was at Accenture. It's like I've seen it done at like a huge level, right? But what again I notice is Atlanta never gets a chance to tell its own stories. When it comes time to cut the checks, when it gets time to do the creative, they go run to LA, New York, DC, Chicago, all these other places, and bring somebody down there and say, so tell me about these lemon pepper wings y'all eat. And so when we kind of first launched Butter, that was my whole idea was our definition of culture was people like us do things like this.
Yep.
It's a reason in Atlanta why, you can take the same crew from, the High Museum to Waffle House to Magic City, and everybody's gonna have a good time, right? Because Atlanta moves a certain kind of way. And so in all the content, everything we've done, I've just always tried to make sure the team and everything we do kind of accurately reflects that. And I've also tried to make sure that every time we did something, we also pulled the right partners in. Again, Bame was at our launch party, man. I reached out to him, and I didn't even know this brother like that, right? But when I was bringing Butter to life in Atlanta, I felt like it was super important to get the right people involved because, again, there's the SEO version of influence, but then there's also the real version of influence. And so, again, just everything we do about Butter is all about, again, Atlanta culture. We just want to showcase it in a fun way, and I think that's especially important now. There's a lot of folks out there that are only telling one side or not necessarily the best side of Atlanta. And I think we always kind of try to have fun with it, but again, do it in an authentic way. So we're not avoiding the issues that exist, because everybody has issues, especially in growing pains. But there's an authentic way to do that, and that's more than just showing crime and broken car windows, right? Like there's a lot of really awesome things happening in the city. Great people, great businesses, great things being started, and just being able to tell that story through content over the years has been a great journey.
Yeah. So both of the brands are really born out of like a rallying cry, right? Like I think we've all felt it, right? Felt the frustration. You go to larger markets, LA, New York, right? Chicago, and it's like, no, Atlanta's competitive in the same way too, right? And so a lot of the times I've heard people like they can't really put a finger on like, yo, I like Atlanta culture, but I can't really finger point like what it is, right? Like when people ask you that, like what's the answer? Like what do you say? Because it's not really one, right? It's not one.
Look, I say Atlanta influences everything.
Absolutely.
Again, honestly, just being 100% real, I always say, culture is Atlanta's number one export. And like even right now, I'm working with a campaign. For example, I'm working on a campaign right now to highlight the HBCU experience, right? And one of the things I told this brand that I'm working with was, if we can get this to pop here, it'll pop everywhere because, again, Atlanta is the mecca of HBCUs.
Absolutely.
Right? So if whatever we do here, the rest of the country will follow, right? So I think, again, we just export cool, export again. Like again, I keep saying our definition of culture is people like us do things like this. We move a certain way. We move together. Me and Ben, we partnered on 404 Day. And this is the second year in a row we did it. We did it last year when everything with COVID shut down. Did a huge virtual event with Jermaine Dupri. This year, we shut down a whole Wild Haven brewery. the city of Atlanta came out, gave us a proclamation, right? So again, even the ability of some of the bigger cultural brands in the city to like work together, to have sit downs and say, yo, like how can all of us kind of put our arms around this city and kind of show it the right way, I think just, again, speaks volumes to Atlanta and just that progressive culture, that openness and just willingness to do the right thing to put the city on.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And well, first of all, that 404 day thing, because of the lack of cohesiveness and collaboration, cross-sector, cross-agency in Atlanta, very siloed. There's mythical origins to the 404 day, like where it came from, who started it. That involves hyper-local person, involves the people that are now known for it, and even involves an agency in New York as well as AT&T, all wrapped into possibly what became 404 Day. But to Brandon's point, if he's saying Atlanta influences everything, then the folks that came up with it have to bear the brunt of somebody pushing back. Like, nah, hold on, what do you? So we justify the statement by, first and foremost, the home of Dr. King. So, you got a Bob Marley, every city doesn't get a Dr. King. So we got him. And so the precipice of the civil rights movement and everything that comes from that permeates throughout the rest of the world. So that's civic in that space. The second would be one of the most recognizable brands in the world behind Nike probably would be Coca-Cola. You can make it into anything, but as long as you keep the squiggly line and the, it's like, yo, that's Coke anywhere in the world. And so corporate commerce, and from my understanding, we have the third largest chamber in the country. We have a very strong chamber. So business is flowing here. So corporate commerce would be the second C. Third C, home outcast. So basically,
entertainment,
home
music,
urban culture.
film.
And urban culture influences pop culture, and we all know American pop culture goes on and influence. So when you put the three of those together, that's how we justify it. But I'll end by saying, in terms of the work we have to do, when I was at the Center for Civic Innovation, as a creative, I identify as a creative, but I learned how the city works. I learned more about the chamber and Invest Atlanta, and a lot of the folks that make the culture flow, they don't come in 191 as often as they should. They don't read the business chronicle. So the ecosystem is off, and because the ecosystem is not connected with all of this, we are number one in income inequality, and we have the 4% upward mobility rate. So if you're born poor in Atlanta, there's a 96% chance you'll die poor. So the work we have to do is build up from the bottom, public school system, tie it all in. The last thing I'll say with my friends is a joke, because I'm from old Atlanta, but my brand and this platform I'm on right now apparently is New Atlanta. So old Atlanta raised me, but New Atlanta pays me. Is that cool? Is that a t-shirt? Nah. We have to connect the old and New Atlanta, and that's what we're here to do. And I appreciate the platform to even do this.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I appreciate you providing insight. A lot of people, again, like come and ask questions about old Atlanta, new Atlanta. You get a lot of people moving here, transplant. So it's important to have this conversation. We definitely have to continue it on a larger platform. So next year we should be up on stage doing the keynote, right?
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's do it. And we got to get some. It's a lot of dope women. Cause I know we broed up in here, but it's they outnumber us. So shout out, y'all know.
Absolutely.
What up, Melissa? We'll see you tonight. Go Hawks.
Yeah.
Braves.
I know. Yeah. Go Braves. Go Hawks. Kicking off the season tonight. So that's our time today. We appreciate you tuning in to the Atlanta Innovation Studio. Appreciate my guests here, providing some very deep context and insight. Want to continue this conversation. I wish we could, but please tune in. We're going to have more coming to you very soon.
Thank you.
Broadcasting from Venture Atlanta. Love to have you here. I've got a great panel today of three of the coolest, smartest, most brilliant women in fintech in Atlanta. So very excited to bring you their stories and talk a little bit more about fintech and the ATL with these brilliant women. We'll start with just a quick introduction down the path, and then we'll move into some discussion. So why don't you start us off?
Hi there, I'm Christine DeWendel, co-founder and CEO US of Sunday, Atlanta's newest fintech doing restaurant payments.
Fabulous, thank you.
Hi, I'm Kristen Stafford. I'm co-founder of Vital4, and we are a global compliance software company supporting controls for AML KYC, FCPA due diligence, and many other legislative requirements.
Hi, I'm Amy Barbieri, co-founder and president of Vital4. She just gave a quick intro, but I'd also like to add that we are fighting financial crime with AI-driven data.
Very good. So love having this brilliant panel of fintech women here. We have to give a huge shout out to Christine, who has raised almost $135 million in the past, 4 months?
7 months.
And tell us when you launched your company. Let's just have a mic drop moment.
We launched in March 15th.
Yes.
So 7 months ago.
2021.
Yeah, we launched on March 15th, so 7 months ago.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
How did that journey go? Give us a quick rundown of the chaos that happened.
It is definitely chaotic. Why have we been able to raise that much money? Because our idea is massive. We are planning on changing the way people pay in physical retail. We're starting with restaurants, moving into hospitality, hotels, and then we believe there's an opportunity to change the way people pay everywhere in physical retail. No one has done it yet. The space has not been disrupted, and our investors loved it. Our first customers loved it. We have almost 2,000 customers.
Wow.
Who are really excited. We have over 1.5 million users and it's going like wildfire. So very exciting, but yes, it's intense.
That's great. Well, congratulations.
Thank
We're thrilled
you.
you picked Atlanta. And let's kind of unpack that a little bit. Cashless payments. I mean, it's all the new rage. So do we think we're going towards a cashless payment society? What are y'all's thoughts on that? Let's start with either Kristen or Amy from Vital 4.
Well, yes, I think it's been predicted here at Venture Atlanta years ago that we were going to end up being a cashless payment society, and obviously it's already happening. So I think there's a million great things that are going to happen with that, and a million great reasons to do it. I think there's a few cons, but I'm excited, and it also the technologies that we provide help bring protection for payment processors and banks who are, supporting all those payments.
Talk a little bit more about kind of what distinguishes y'all's product in that space.
Go ahead.
Well, it's really the technology that we have built. We provide data to companies that are making very quick decisions on whether somebody should transact. Maybe it's a swipe of a credit card or an opening of a bank account. And so, our technology provides real-time data and tries to, really provide more, relevant data, less data for fintechs, banks to sort through. Than the legacy providers in the past. So that's really what separates us without going into great detail. So as far as your question about cashless society, definitely think we're going that direction. I'm already cashless myself. I rarely carry cash, but I think of a couple of things that are really good, especially that affects our industry directly, and that's kind of hindering financial crime because. The criminals out there really rely heavily on cash to do their dirty deeds, and so if we move away from cash and every transaction is trackable, then it really makes it a little bit more difficult. So that's one of the things I think about. And then another thing I thought about when you said that was the con. What if the grid went down? What if the payment grid went down? We're sitting on it here in Atlanta, and so that's a little bit scary because if there's no cash and there's no way to transact, how do you buy food? How do you buy gas? Those types of things. So there's pros and cons definitely, but I think there are, like Kristen said, a little bit more pros to that.
And I've seen such a shift in cashless. A lot of people aren't even taking cash anymore since COVID, which is super interesting. What about your take on a cashless society future?
So I think we're heading in that direction. The first thing I would say is take a look at what's happened in Asia. It's been 10 years since there's been really a move for a cashless society, and it's working really well. And then take a look at what the pandemic did, right? It accelerated the cashless society significantly. Apple Pay, Google Pay is going through the roof in both North America and in Europe. And we're heading in that direction. And we see it with Sunday. The whole point is people don't want to carry cash. They don't want to be touching cash. So I think we're definitely heading in that direction. And I actually see more advantages than anything. I think it's the way of the future.
For sure. That's great. Well, y'all are in the right space to be sure. Now, we do a lot of work around making sure that our ecosystem is diverse and inclusive. And there is a smaller minority of women in fintech. So how have y'all, but you've all been incredibly successful. So talk a little bit about how you found that journey.
You want me to start?
Sure.
It's funny because I think the assumption is that it is tougher, and it may be in other areas of the country and in other regions, but here in Atlanta, we've had an amazing experience. I feel like being a women-owned fintech company has helped boost us, and especially with the help from the Metro Atlanta Chamber, we've just been surrounded by love and support and connected with all the right people. So for us, I think we were nervous at first and worried that people might think we were somewhere to serve beer versus, being the founder of a technology company. But it has been an amazing journey, and Atlanta is definitely the place to be if you want to start a fintech.
That's great. And just to plug, Vital 4 is a backed by ATL company, so we're thrilled to have y'all in that program. What has your experience been? Are you from Atlanta?
I'm from Atlanta, born and raised.
Okay. Nice.
Grew up
All
here.
of us.
Wow.
That's a rare
Atlanta natives.
And I left for 20 years and then came back because I thought this was the perfect place to start a company. And I will echo what the two of you just said. I feel like the Atlanta ecosystem has been wonderful, and frankly, I like to say that being a woman in fintech I haven't felt like I'm any different.
I love hearing that.
You know, I'm an entrepreneur building an amazing company, and I could be a man, I could be a woman, I could be anything else, and frankly, I haven't felt it. And I think Atlanta's been great for that.
Absolutely.
And I think it's also the direction we're going in. You know, maybe 10 years ago, this would have been an issue. Today, we need more women in fintech.
Yes, absolutely.
But certainly, I don't think being a woman has any negative impact. On the contrary, there's so much enthusiasm for women entrepreneurs right now that I actually think it's something that's helping us.
That's wonderful. So why'd you pick Atlanta to start your business?
Well, I grew up here, as I said. It's the story of a girl who left Atlanta, thought I would never come back, and at age 40, with my husband and 3 kids, I said, "This is the town I want to start a company in," because the talent pool is awesome, because it's a great place also to hire developers, to hire salespeople. Quality of life is great. Weather's great, let's face it.
Weather is great. Yes.
And after 15 years in Europe, I can't tell you how nice it is to be starting a company here. It's been awesome, and maybe a last shout out to the entrepreneur community here in Atlanta. It has been amazing. I've been welcomed with open arms by so many entrepreneurs here who have been helpful, putting me in touch with people, helping me recruit. I really feel like I'm part of some large entrepreneurial family that wants to put Atlanta on the map as a place that's great for starting tech companies. And I'm becoming Atlanta's biggest ambassador because it's really true.
Well, we love that, and we're glad that you're here, and looking forward to support all of y'all's businesses as we move forward. So, I mean, for those, not everyone knows what fintech is, right? So let's talk a little bit. Why is it important for the future of the community? Why is it important for businesses across the board? And do you think that all financial institutions are going to have to eventually be a fintech type company? Who wants to start?
Amy, you want to take that one? You're deep into that.
Well, deep into
you talk about that a lot.
Well, I think I was going down a little bit different path than that, but yeah, I mean, do I think all financial? Absolutely. Actually, I just got asked the same question, similar, yesterday by a UGA student who was doing a project research for a fintech project that he's working on, and yes, the answer is yes. If financial institutions, the traditional ones, don't take and adopt technology, they're going to get left in the dust, and I think they know that, and I think there's a lot of regulators that are starting to push for that as well. By example, FinCEN, which is the Financial Enforcement or Crimes Enforcement Network, was doing some research and digging into Vital 4 and how AI is helping us provide better data, and then they're taking those recommendations to the financial institutions, saying, "Hey, here's some technology that you need to look at to make, your products better, your solutions better, and just keep the world safer against financial crime." So yeah, I think that's definitely a long-term play for the traditional banks to adopt technology and become a fintech company.
And absolutely critical, and especially in this day and age with all the fraud and going on. I mean, you have to have a fintech for every business that touches money. So.
Right. Yeah, and to add the AI piece into it is just one step further.
Yeah.
And you're helping kind of restaurants reach into that fintech space by partnering with them. Are they used to this? I mean, tell me what their approach to fintech is.
So it's a great question. We've seen payments, banking is one of the last industries not to have been disrupted. And two major observations. One is if you look at venture and growth money and PE money over the last 2-3 years, there's been a tremendous amount of investment, and we're a great example of it in the fintech space because it's really a space that still has room for disruption.
Yes.
So with all that money flowing into the fintech space, there's a ton of innovation, there's a lot of companies going up, and so you'll see fintech becoming more and more important. And in terms of needs, well, I mentioned it earlier, but banking, payments, those are some restaurant payments. Those are spaces that haven't seen much innovation. and bringing AI to it, bringing data security, bringing protection to that space is critical in a context where cashless payments are becoming more and more important. So yes, we are in a space that is just riding a wave of innovation, and it's really exciting.
And real-time payments too, right?
Absolutely.
So that's a whole
real-time payments are huge.
But I know we have to wrap this conversation.
Well, right, and of course I want to talk another hour about all the data that you're all collecting and what happens with that and what's the insight that comes from it, but unfortunately we're out of time. This has been such a pleasure. Christine, Amy, Kristen, thank you so much for joining us on the Atlanta Innovation Studio, and if you would like more information from any of these brilliant women and their companies, please reach out.
Please reach out. We are hiring, and we are excited to be in the space.
That's right. Thank you. All right.
Cynthia.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you.
Venture Atlanta, and it is still active as it could be. The second day, we're here at the Atlanta Innovation Studio, powered by Mailchimp, and just hearing from amazing people, including Sean O'Brien, Overline DC.
That's right, you got it right, Alex.
Exactly.
It's great to be here.
Yeah,
Thanks for having me.
Good to see you. And so let's talk about Overline. I mean, you've been going through a lot of exciting things, a lot of exciting news, which we'll get to. But first of all, for someone who's not heard of Overline, which I don't know because you have the cool shirts, so I don't know how they.
We do. We've got the startup style branding going on.
Exactly. So tell us a little bit about Overline and why you even started it, because I think that's really important to the Atlanta story.
Yeah. So Michael Cohen, my partner,
yeah.
Founder here in Atlanta, successful business called Cloud Sherpas. Then after he had his exit in 2015, he became the founding managing director of Techstars Atlanta, where he invested in and brought together 30 cohort companies over a 3-year period. I was a mentor in that program, and we became fast friends and spent a lot of time together, and we saw a consistent gap in the funding ecosystem here in Atlanta and more broadly in the Southeast, which is the very first check into a business. Traditionally, you go to your founder, your friends and family, you go to angels at the country club if you have access to that, or one of the angel groups. But what's been missing historically has been an institutional lead investment firm to come in and take a bet on a founder when they're early. So we used to complain about it. We'd point it out, we'd complain about it, and then one day, a couple of years ago, we sat down and we said, well, we should do something about this. And so what Overline is we're a seed stage venture capital fund here in Atlanta. We invest exclusively in founders that are building in the Southeast, and we'll engage early at concept stage with a $250,000 check all the way up through the seed stage up to $1.5 million check. And so that's us, and we've been in business about 18 months.
And you have been since 18 months, but you've had some big news this week because so you went from a fund to a firm, I guess, right?
We did. Thank you for pointing that out. We're so excited that even though we're less than halfway deployed in our seed fund, we're seeing the same opportunity that we've been talking about in later stage rounds. And so we just closed an opportunity fund, which we were really excited to celebrate earlier this week as part of Innovation Week in Atlanta. We closed it sort of inside with our existing LPs. Focus is going to be a little bit different. Checks into later rounds of companies that are on their way to being unicorns. So both inside our seed fund portfolio and outside in the greater Atlanta community and throughout the Southeast.
So talk from your perspective, because you've obviously been in the ecosystem for a bit in different capacity. I mean, right now, you talk about the energy here at Venture Atlanta, which is great to be live for one thing, but it seems like daily the news coming out of Atlanta is just amazing. So from your perspective, talk about what's been so different over the last couple of years. Are we seeing a real change? Are we finally maturing? Just what's happening now?
Alex, it's been amazing. I moved here 18 years ago plus with my wife. We now have 2 kids that were have grown up their whole lives here. And it always bugged me when we'd hear about Atlanta being a secondary city or tertiary city. Then it was an emerging city. And it's been really fun to celebrate that Atlanta is here on a global stage. And that is not something that happened overnight. I mean, you've got an ecosystem that's developed to support entrepreneurship and innovation for decades now that are coming together at a moment in time, which is really exciting for us to be a part of. So you've got some people who put stakes in the ground and said, we've got to change this. We want to turn Atlanta into a top 10 venture market. David Cummings, David Lightbird, what they were doing at Atlanta Tech Village. And we've got some super angels who've been early sources of capital who've leaned in and intentionally started to push on that flywheel of getting things going. And what's happening, which is what happens with flywheels, is once it gets going, it picks up momentum of its own. So we're celebrating a dozen or so unicorns that have been grown here in the city over the last couple of years. And as new founders see that it is possible to build big here in the Southeast, they see an example of what great looks like. That just creates additional momentum in the flywheel. And so capital is just a piece of it. It's people like Metro Chamber who have been doing a lot to support the innovation here in the community. It's the startup hubs, it's the incubators, it's the accelerators, all coming together in support of founders.
Yeah, I think that's great to talk about the flywheel, because I think that is what it is. We've had some of our unicorn founders on earlier, yesterday, and just if you even think about the amount of companies we could call unicorns or near unicorns, these big companies, but it's really the role those founders are playing in helping other companies, or they're rolling off, or they're investing in funds. So I think that's been what's great now.
It's amazing. Unlike any other market that I've seen,
yeah,
the founders really feel a connection and obligation to give back to the community. And so the Soonicorns, which is what we call them, the near-term ones, I love that word, the Soonicorns, but even the ones who are just getting out of the ground and are looking for inspiration, looking for a nudge, looking for a push to say, yes, it's time to jump, it's time to burn the boats and really do this, they're getting support. So people like Sean Henry, who's an amazing success story in Atlanta, he just spoke to our Overline Third Thursday event with founders from across the region in our portfolio and outside our portfolio, shared his story. And we're getting emails even a month later of, that was so inspirational to me, I learned this, or I got the courage to do this.
Yeah.
And we see that over and over and over, which is really special building here in the Southeast and in Atlanta.
Well, that's great. Well, we have a lot of founders from Atlanta and from around the Southeast, around the country now coming to Atlanta. So what's the best way to get the attention of Overline if they're looking for funding?
We love to see everything. And so if you are building here in Atlanta or anywhere in the Southeast, we want to meet you. We have a submission form on our website, overline.vc.
Yep.
You can submit your pitch. We read and review every one of them. Even if we don't take a meeting because it's not a fit, we like to give good, helpful feedback. And so overline.vc, or link out to me on LinkedIn, Sean O'Brien.
Well, great. Well, Sean, it's great what you guys are doing. It's great to see now you have the founders and I've seen the capital, and you are a founder yourself, a founder of a firm. I'm sure you're dealing with all the pains of like any other business. So it's great. So congratulations on the progress. I'm excited for what we all are doing, and thanks everybody. Make sure you reach out if you're a founder to Overline VC, even if you're not. If you're a company and you want to support one of their companies as well too. And we're going to continue here from Venture Atlanta live here for the Atlanta Innovation Studio, powered by Mailchimp. Back to you soon. Venture Atlanta, where it is buzzing again. We're here at the Atlanta Innovation Studio, powered by Mailchimp, with Catherine O'Day of Atlanta Ventures.
Hello, Alex. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, thank you for coming. And so, how long have you been with Atlanta Ventures officially now?
So, I've been with Atlanta Ventures officially 6 months.
Yeah.
Unofficially over a decade, because that's how long I've worked in the ecosystem with Atlanta Ventures companies.
So talk about the ecosystem then. That's great, since you've seen it, I mean, from the ground floor essentially. Let's talk about this evolution over the last decade.
It has been amazing to watch. So for example, when I started at Pardot, there were few to no co-working spaces for tech companies here in Atlanta. And so we actually subleased the MTV office in Buckhead.
Wow. I did not know that. That's cool.
So when that was the impetus to start the Atlanta Tech Village, because if you were an entrepreneur and you wanted an office space, you were trying to be scrappy, a month-to-month contract, you needed internet or snacks, like where could you go to get that? And the Atlanta Tech Village was a space where you could do that. And then now it's grown to 900 entrepreneurs, 300 companies. And so it's been just that piece alone of startups getting office space has been amazing to see.
Right. Oh, that's pretty. And so did you foresee this explosion now that we're having in terms of unicorns like every other day and all this stuff? I mean, because some of these companies, there was because obviously you've been working with David Cummings. I mean, we had a panel of unicorns, and they said we were at a table with David like 10 years ago, and look at us now. I mean, did you kind of foresee all this?
Well, I looked into my crystal ball,
yes, and
I was like, I see 100 unicorns coming to Atlanta. So what I saw was investment into entrepreneurs early on, and it starts. A unicorn takes 10 years to build. Yeah. Sometimes a little faster, a little bit slower.
People think it's like an overnight thing, but it's not.
An overnight 10-year success.
Right.
And so what I saw was entrepreneurs starting, investors putting in seed money, more investors coming to Atlanta, and that was being planted 5-10 years ago, and now you're seeing the fully grown unicorns.
Right.
And what's cool is if this is happening now, imagine what happens 5 years from now, 10 years from now. It's going to be 10x
amazing.
this.
Well, and part of this, I think what's exciting too is the kind of intentional inclusion that we're driving here in Atlanta too. And I'm thinking even on the venture side, I mean, the stats in terms of the number of women in venture is not real big, and so how is that for you in terms of being a woman in venture capital? How are you helping, frankly, trailblaze, in a space as we drive more inclusion? Because I think that's going to have a behavior in the entrepreneurs we bring on board as well.
Yes, I think so. I'm going to tell you a fun story, which is I went to a women investor breakfast this morning, and there were 33 women. And they said 3 years ago there were 3. Wow. And so if you think about the growth, it's a unicorn, right?
Yeah, exactly.
What 300x. The thing that I've found, so I've been a woman in tech for over a decade. Right. It's always been a phenomenal, welcoming, high growth experience for me. And then coming into this space, I felt welcomed by the Atlanta community. Everyone, young, old, black, white, everyone has been welcoming. And so I think that really speaks to the future of Atlanta now, but also what we're growing. Yeah. And then I would say one of the things I'm personally focused on is how can we get more women-founded unicorns? How do we get 10 $1 billion companies founded by women in the next 10 years?
Yeah, well, and of course, speaking of with Sarah Blakely, of course, just had a
one. We checked one.
Yeah, we got one. And by the way, as an example too, people say, I mean, that's a unicorn. So, well, it's not a tech company. No, it doesn't matter. I mean, this is about growing. This is about entrepreneurism. So, what advice would you give women wanting to be a founder of a company, wanting to be, or maybe going to the VC or on the investment side? What advice? I guess really to anybody, but specifically to women.
The first thing, if you want to start a company and grow it, is pick a big market. Yeah. It's hard to build a company. You're going to work your butt off, whether it's a $10 million company or a $1 billion company. And if you pick a big idea in a big market, that's the first thing. And you can do that without changing anything about how hard you work or what you do. Right. So that would be the first thing, is pick a huge idea in a huge
market of one.
Yeah. A $10 million market, if you capture the whole market, is not a unicorn.
Exactly. So what do you see for Atlanta Ventures in the coming years, and then what do you see for Atlanta over the next decade in terms of where we're going?
It's so exciting.
And by the way, just to give credit here, I mean, Atlanta Ventures, while may not be sometimes not the biggest name, but really between ATV, Atlanta Technology, and Atlanta Ventures has been really a fundamental part of the growth of this ecosystem. So thank you for that, because I mean, when you go back to some of the roots of everything that's happening now, clearly that's part of it, just like Tech Square has been part of it, and then we have more. But so what's new for Atlanta Ventures the next few years, and where does Atlanta go?
That's a big question, a great question.
Then I can tell other people. I want the answer from you.
So, thank you for the shout out to Atlanta Ventures. It really, I mean, there's so many people doing so many things, and that's what it takes, is everybody doing it. And that's what I think is special about Atlanta, is that everybody is rowing in the same direction, and that's why 5 unicorns that were announced this week.
Yeah,
in 5 years, it's going to be 25 in a week.
Right.
And I really believe that. And at Atlanta Ventures, we are continuing to empower entrepreneurs,
Right.
invest early with capital, but also sharing knowledge,
Right.
paying it forward. And one of the things that we've seen that's amazing is that the founders that are now seeing success are already investing back in the community as angel investors, and they're putting money into the next round
That's
of companies,
awesome. Yeah.
money and time, right?
Right.
Time, expertise, meeting with them. And so when I look ahead, more unicorns, more entrepreneurs everywhere, more job creation, more inclusion, diversity in the generating of wealth and the sharing of the wealth.
Right. Well, I'm looking forward to that. The capital, I think it's exciting to see not just our founders and the growth of entrepreneurs here in Atlanta, but also the growth of our investment ecosystem as well too. I think having more investors here. So Catherine, it's great having you here. Thanks for everything you've been doing and you do for the Atlanta Innovation Ecosystem, and look forward to what's going to be coming ahead.
Thank you so much, Alex, and thank you so much for what you and Metro Atlanta Chamber
No
do.
problem.
It's amazing.
We just sell it, you know.
No. You guys are at the forefront,
That's great.
bringing people together and sharing the story.
That's great. Well,
It's really
thank you. And we will be back here live at the Atlanta Innovation Studio, powered by Mailchimp here at Venture Atlanta. Back again live from the floor of Venture Atlanta and another busy day. And we are here at the Atlanta Innovation Studio powered by Mailchimp. I'm Alex Gonzalez. I'm here with Lisa Calhoun, good friend.
Glad to be here, Alex.
Valor Ventures. Lisa, so great to talk to you. Of course, you know, I've gotten to know Valor, of course, very well over the years. And so I just don't want to assume everybody knows about it. So talk to people about Valor, because it's a pretty cool story of why you started it and what you're really trying to do.
Thank you so much. You know, Valor is 5 years old.
Wow.
And I remember I started it as a serial founder, going to places like Venture Atlanta and feeling like, wow, there's so much more. I mean, as magnificent as this is, you know, we still invest 95% of venture capital in white male founders. And so what that does for our inclusion is represses it, you know? Right. And so Valor Ventures was founded as a venture capital platform to invest at the seed stage with inclusion at its core. And that's led to a portfolio today, 5 years later, that's an amazing group of founders. 75% of the portfolio today is led by women and founders of color. Yeah. And there's some real heroes here in Atlanta.
And I think it's really important too to know with Valor and kind of the investments you're making, it's a very intentional in its inclusion, but it's about making money. So your investment thesis is there are founders that are women or founders of color that are going to outperform the market, right?
Well, actually, the two go together. Like, where did the idea ever come up that inclusion was against performance?
Yeah.
That is so disproven by so many studies.
That's right.
I get tired of citing them all. So the fact is, inclusion is a factor in most of the most successful companies. And there's a lot to support the belief that investing with inclusion not only generates the kind of returns that you get from the very best performers, but it also creates a cycle of wealth equality and new wealth creation that's truly the American dream.
So what's as you started looking for founders, what are the kind of the challenges you see that the founders are having? You know, what's kind of the advice you'd be giving them, particularly if they're a founder of color or a woman founder that may have not be familiar with the system?
You know, I think one of the biggest challenges right now is how to price that first round. You know, as we're sitting here and the stage behind us, founders are pitching for their seed round, and it's a really frothy market right now, globally, nationally, and right here in the Southeast.
Right.
And so if you're up there for the first time looking for your lead seed investor, they want to know sort of where you see the value of the company going.
Right.
And I don't like to talk to founders who don't see the value of their company at $1 billion or more today, but that's not where you are right now. And so I think that pricing, how pricing is thought about near history, what's coming next with the economy, is really a hard subject for founders to navigate. They're usually very at home in the problem they're solving, and they know they want to be a magnificent, massive company, but from here to there, pricing it for your investors is certainly more of an art than a science.
Absolutely.
And it's a real difficult conversation.
And this is where having good also people around you to help you on that journey too, people who've been around as well. So let's shift a little bit to Atlanta, obviously, you know, and it's great to see so many, not just so many companies being born, but so many venture funds being born too, as it become a center of capital, which I think is important. But what's your reaction, or how do you think about that? I mean, talk about an amazing time to be in Atlanta. I mean, the unicorns are born every day.
Yeah.
Companies are moving in every day, big corporations, big global tech companies. So kind of how have you seen over the last 5 years, even just with Valor, what's your reaction to this journey we're on?
Atlanta absolutely has the DNA to build the future American civilization we want to live in.
Wow.
You know, right here, right now, we are blessed to live in the future because we live in Atlanta.
Yeah.
And when you look at the innovation coming out of our great schools like Georgia Tech that literally set the bar in places like computer science and AI engineering, when you look at the opportunity of our very inclusive population with our Hispanic founders, founders of color, female founders, and everyone else, it's amazing. Only in the Southeast and only in Atlanta do you have the density of diverse executives the density of diverse founders and the pipeline of tier one education that brings up those generations that fuel first-class companies.
Right.
You know, the world has changed, and we're at the fore of it right here. And I'm so glad we're in Atlanta right now, because I really feel like that the ball has moved, and it is here.
Right, absolutely. And we have to do something with it too as well, and kind of define what that is. And you talk about the corporations as well, of course, a huge corporate center. But you've been able to take advantage of that as well too with Valor.
Yes.
So talk a little bit,
no. I mean, one of the things we do that is so dear to my heart is one of our sourcing programs.
Yep.
So if you want to lead seed and do it well, like we do at Valor, you have to really focus on that pipeline, which is pre-seed. And so we're very fortunate that Mecca Tart, our executive director, runs one of our sourcing platforms called Startup Runway. Now, Startup Runway is organized as an independent nonprofit.
Right.
What's nice about that is, you know, we don't invest in pre-seed, and it's wonderful to share that pipeline with every other investor who's interested in it.
Right.
And one of the ways that we bring, our strength in founders of color and female founders to the table is by offering grants at pre-seed. And those are underwritten by some of Atlanta's fantastic companies like Cox Enterprises, which is our presenting sponsor.
Yeah, great company here in Atlanta.
Great company. We're also really lucky to have Georgia Power and Truist and others at the table from here in Atlanta.
Right, and it's great. And Cox is a great example. All our companies are, but they're a great example that, you know, they support Startup Runway, they do Techstars, they do so much.
Yes.
And then not to mention their own internal innovation that they drive. And I do want to make sure that you talk a little bit about Startup Runway. Talk a little bit more about it, like how often is it? Because it's really become like the kind of the leading showcase for
Thank you, Alex. I remember shaking your hand at like the second one
my
ever,
goodness,
right?
Yeah, it's amazing it's how much it's grown.
It's grown a lot.
Yeah.
So we just ran the 12th Startup Runway. We're going to do the 13th in December.
Wow.
So it's coming up on December 9th. We're giving away 2 grants, and we're recruiting finalists now. So Startup Runway is a connection platform for investors who write first checks to startups led by women and founders of color.
Yeah.
So it's a very specific pipeline. We sort through hundreds of startups per showcase, and then our committee, which is definitely not run by Valor. We have a lot of voices on that committee, including West Coast investors. It's a cool crew. But they use our software platform, and they rate and score and stack all these pre-seed opportunities from women and founders of color, and the top 10 get showcased on our stage in front of investors like SoftBank and Maveron and America's Impact Fund and Harlem Capital and amazing investment firms.
So it's a great platform. So Lisa, thanks for everything you've been doing, first of all. So with Valor and with Startup Runway, and just being active in the ecosystem. I think everybody keeps talking on here and then on stage about collaboration in Atlanta. And I think it's the people and the collaborative nature that brings everybody together. And one thing we didn't talk about, the people involved with Valor are from all over the ecosystem as well too, which is fantastic. So thank you for everything you're doing. And
you're so welcome. Thank you for everything the Chamber does. The Chamber was one of the first organizations to show up at Startup Runway, and I mentioned shaking your hand, but you were there on behalf of the Chamber and opening doors. I feel like the Metro Atlanta Chamber kicks down doors so that others can walk through, and that's something that I really...
People know what they're doing, do what they do. That's what we want. Whenever a founder asks, how can we help? Become a unicorn, blow up, do well, raise tons of money. And then, everybody do their thing. So thank you.
Great speaking with you.
And thanks, everybody. And we'll continue here shortly, live from the floor of Venture Atlanta at the Atlanta Innovation Studio, powered by Mailchimp.
Atlanta Innovation Studio, being brought to you live from Venture Atlanta. So thrilled to have two Atlanta icons here today with us, PJ Bain of Prime Revenue and
Jen Graham.
Jen Graham of Inclusive. I'm sorry, it's been such a long day. It's so great to have y'all here, and we're experiencing so kinds of great things happening at Venture Atlanta. Excited to dive into y'all's work. So since we are at Venture Atlanta and you're both Atlanta companies, let's just have a moment about why are you starting your company in Atlanta? Why do you find Atlanta a good place to build your particular business? And let's start with you, PJ, because you're a global company and you chose this city.
Well, a few reasons. First of all, Prime Revenue is a financial technology business. We're at the epicenter of the world of financial technology here in Atlanta. Atlanta is an incredibly diverse city, fantastic schools from Georgia Tech to Kennesaw State to Georgia State to Atlanta University, Clark, Atlanta, Spelman, Morehouse, just great access to talent. It's a great place that's well known around the world for innovation, startup, financial technology. It's a great place for our international clients. About half of our revenue is outside of the U.S., global corporations. Wow. So we need to go visit them and they need to come visit us. And the Atlanta airport is a great place to do it, and it's a fun city for people to visit from around the country and around the world. And then the startup community is incredibly supportive. So regardless of what we need, whether it's collaboration between CEOs, whether it's working on how we can find a better way to have social interaction with our employees in a pandemic world, or whatever it may be, the community here is just absolutely fantastic.
Wonderful. And Jen Graham of Inclusive, let's hear about you and what quick introduction of your company and why you chose Atlanta.
Yeah. Well, Inclusive is an online platform that brings people together for conversations that matter, and is a social impact company that is focused on really raising a level of consciousness around important issues. We couldn't imagine a better place than Atlanta as like the birthplace of social innovation, and the King Center and the history and the rise of just even the Black tech community here has just been so incredible. So we feel that at the intersection of all of the amazing corporations that are here that are doing good work, and the local ecosystem that has been built for entrepreneurs like myself, it's been fantastic.
Yeah, I love that you've kind of taken on Atlanta being the home of social justice, and really the business community has always been a leader in that in Atlanta, and kind of taking it to a whole nother level. And before we met today, y'all were talking about a project that you did together. So just tell the world a little bit about that with the Bernice Center, or Bernice King, and the kind of beloved group of work that y'all did.
So I'll start because I know Jen is very humble, and I'll brag on
You'll
Jen
brag
a
on
little
her.
bit. Yeah.
Good.
So Dr. Bernice King, the CEO of the King Center, was actually a classmate of mine in Leadership Atlanta. And a number of our classmates were helping to support her in an initiative that she has launched that is really touching lives and helping to facilitate conversations all over the world called the Beloved Community Talks that are run through the King Center. And so I was working with a group of our classmates supporting Bernice in that effort, and we were introduced to Jen's company to help facilitate a number of conversations on the heels of the social injustice and racial inequities that occurred over the course of last summer in 2020 around George Floyd and Rayshard Brooks and Ahmaud Arbery. And one of the things that we were trying to do is, it was actually companies as well as workers in the social justice arena that were coming together and trying to facilitate conversations that probably wouldn't occur. So putting people in a room, in a virtual room, around a dinner, the concept of having a dinner, to be able to have a structured conversation around race, racial equity, and where biases may exist that are completely blind to the people that may have those. And through that effort, where we were introduced to the King Center, in that one instance, we were able to bring together over 500 people to be able to have those conversations.
Amazing.
That were largely strangers that had never met each other before. And I facilitated a couple of those dinners, and I keep in touch with those strangers, and they're not strangers anymore.
That's great.
And that's how you sort of make progress, is you bring people together, and that's what Inclusive does.
So talk a little bit about what those dinners looked like, Jen. I mean, what is an example of those conversations?
Wow, I would say I mean, an example, we've been working with the King Center since 2018.
Okay.
And the Bridging the Racial Divide is an example of one of my most beloved conversation topics, and it's actually the most popular on our site, and it's available for free for anybody to host.
I've attended several. Yes, they're wonderful.
And I think the experience is, I mean, we really want to keep it quite intimate, so we recommend 6 to 10 people to allow everyone to feel heard and to be able to express and share their lived experience or their own perspectives or the first time of understanding race. And these conversations naturally progress into kind of the shared challenges and the realities and struggles that we're facing when it comes to the topics. But then it ends with hope and action. And we really, the whole sole purpose, our original name of Civic Dinners was really all about finding that personal power and the civic responsibility and personal responsibility of taking action to help move these issues forward. And that everybody has a role to play.
And you've found that Atlanta has a pretty good appetite for that?
Yes, we have found, we've hosted, I mean, we've had 20,000 people participate around the world.
Wow.
With the majority we've been home, and we've been based in Atlanta for 5 years and continue to grow. We've had clients like Coca-Cola that came to us to launch a national conversation series on social justice. They selected 6 topics from our library: belonging, allyship, unconscious bias, inclusive leadership, like all of the core essentials, and made it available to the entire country. I mean, 5,000 people register, and
that's amazing.
Sold out in a week, and so that's just the beginning of our partnerships with incredible companies here in Atlanta that are home-based global companies, and we've also started to work with nonprofits, local SMBs, startups, communities, and alumni associations and groups. But even universities like Emory being home, they're one of our long-term clients as well, not only bringing students together, but also alumni and faculty for conversations on a wide range of issues.
That's awesome. And clearly you pivoted to the virtual world, and it worked out great.
Whew,
right?
It did, yes. We're excited. Nothing can replace the magic that happens in person.
Right.
Passing bread and sharing a bottle of wine, but thankfully through video, we have been able to maintain the intimacy and the connection that happens, because like you said, what really matters is the aha moments that happen when you meet people with different backgrounds and lived experiences. It changes you and your perspective. And then you keep those relationships. I had someone approach me who was like, "Hey, Jenna, I was at your house 3 years ago," and it was like, wow, yeah. I mean, it's just like when someone comes into your home, and you become part of family too. So we're excited to go back in person and start having these again in real life. And whether companies or universities want to host it in a restaurant or in a private residence or even in offices, it's really important to create space for these conversations.
Absolutely, I love it, and I love that you're still enjoying some of the partnerships that you made and friends that you made in Atlanta. So that's such a huge thing. I think Atlanta has such a great community of collaboration and co-opetition, as we call it, right?
The Atlanta way.
People helping people. It is the Atlanta way. So on not quite such a heartwarming topic, but you are in the supply chain business, and we of course have to ask about the chaos. So just give us a couple seconds about what we can expect or look forward to, or how you're approaching the supply chain chaos.
So it can be heartwarming, and I think it represents a lot of opportunity, especially for Atlanta. Atlanta is known for a few very core sort of technology sectors, and it is absolutely fantastic. We've had multiple unicorns in fintech, and we've had multiple unicorns in supply chain.
Yep.
And I was actually on another webinar earlier this morning talking about global supply chains and the volatility that's occurring there. And there is absolutely no doubt there is a tremendous amount of volatility in global supply chains. And somebody asked, when are we going to go back to normal? And we're at normal.
Yeah, right. This is the new normal.
We are not going to go back to where we were before. I think, the clients that we support, we have clients that are doing absolutely fantastic. They're probably making more money and generating more profits today than they would have even thought possible 18 months ago. We have clients that are really struggling now, and the clients that are doing the difference between those two, the clients that are doing really well today are clients that were very specific and intentional about going into the pandemic, being entrepreneurial, saying we don't know what's going to happen. We're going to communicate exceptionally well. The same thing that Jen was just talking about, social issues. That's what entrepreneurship and innovation is all about. You have to talk to people, you have to understand what's going on, you have to be transparent, and you have to be prepared to change the organization and go through transformational things to be able to adopt to whatever the new normal is. So I don't think that there's a better place to be for the next 10 years or so because of supply chain. Because of the volatility, the lessons learned through the pandemic, I think one of the things that every one of our clients that has global supply chains, largest supply chains in the world, are going to be re-engineering and redesigning what their supply chains look like. And that represents tremendous opportunity for cities like Atlanta that are at the nexus of finance, the nexus of supply chain, and are very international cities. Globalization is not, we're not going to go backwards. We're not going to close borders. We're not going to shut the world down. Globalization is going to continue to accelerate at a pace that you can't imagine. And as we rationalize supply chains, redesign supply chains based on the lessons learned over the last 2 years, that's going to take a long time, and it represents tremendous innovation entrepreneur opportunities within the supply chain, for sure.
Yeah, and globalization takes diverse teams to be successful, right?
Yeah.
And y'all both have such a huge part in building those diverse teams in Atlanta, and we've got such diverse talent in Atlanta that's another big plus that I think. So,
Absolutely. I was just going to say, I've been in the startup community in Atlanta for 25 years at this point. And it's a competitive differentiator for businesses started in Atlanta because of the availability of diverse talent. And when you bring together that diverse talent, people from different backgrounds, people that have different perspectives, when you get all of those people into a room on a common vision, you're going to come up with better answers than everybody in the room that has the same vanilla experience, all agreeing with what you're going to do. That's a competitive differentiator Atlanta has that doesn't exist in Boston, New York, San Francisco, Austin. And I think we need to be very proud of that.
Yeah, I agree. And then helping everyone understand one another. Go ahead, Jen.
Yeah, and I think there's like diversity, and then there's inclusion, and I think
Right.
that's why the DE and I, diversity, equity, and inclusion. But inclusion is really making sure that every voice can be heard. And, and again, like what we've seen is that inclusive environments actually bring in way more revenue. On average, 40% more revenue. Have attract and retain the best talent.
That's
because
great.
People want to be part of cultures that listen to everybody, not just those in the highest ranks. And then they have more resilient and innovative teams, which innovation is the new normal. Like in order to just live and nothing is constant anymore. The only constant is change. So you have to be nimble enough and constantly be open and willing to listen. And I think that's there's been a shift in how companies really operate. It's less monologue, less directive orders, and more dialogue, listening with customers, getting feedback, and being able to change and pivot on a dime based on the needs have changed. We've even witnessed that ourselves, having to respond and pivot virtually when COVID happened is the first kind of resilience thing that we had to demonstrate and do. But then how the needs have changed even in the last 18 months in the world of COVID, and how we have altered to fit the needs of our customers and change our product offerings.
Diversity in a whole other way, diversity of offering. So Jen Graham of Inclusive, PJ Bain of Prime Revenue, thank y'all so much for being here.
Thank you.
We'll have you on the next Digital Innovation Studio, and we look forward to watching y'all's businesses explode.
Thanks so much.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for all you're doing.
Absolutely, yes. broadcasting live today from Venture Atlanta. So excited to have two great entrepreneurs from Atlanta with us, Christy Brown of Launch2X and Jennifer Sparks of Vax Mobile. So thrilled to listen to these brilliant women talk about what they're doing. So let's just start with a quick introduction of you and your company and what your company does. So we'll start with you, Christy.
Yeah, so I'm Christy Brown. I'm actually a founder as well as a venture capitalist, angel investor here in Atlanta. But I also lead a program called Launchpad 2X, which is a nonprofit focused on scaling female founders to CEO mindset. So what that means for us is really taking the ideas that the female founders have, but really focusing in on their business knowledge and their growth to scale.
It's great, and I went to the launch last week, and it was so wonderful to see such budding entrepreneurs in Atlanta, and I love the work that you're doing to help support them.
Thank you for that.
So Jennifer, let's hear from you a little bit about your company, Vax Mobile.
Thank you so much. Well, yeah, so we created VAC Mobile really because unlike so many other areas of our lives that have undergone digital transformation, like online banking or e-filing your taxes, vaccination records are still sadly stuck in the 19th century, not even the 20th century, because you have to go in person to somebody usually to get that original vaccination record. And then on the other end, an enterprise is usually manually inspecting that. So there's no end-to-end digital automation. And that's what we set out to change. We wanted to make it for both the enterprises and for the individuals possible for you all from a smart device to be able to obtain, store, and transmit vaccination records. And we pivoted during the pandemic to also be able to help businesses with their safe return to work. So we're including also COVID-19 test results.
Well, I love that, and great timing on this business. I mean, I've used my vaccination card probably over the past 2 weeks more than I have ever since I got it. And you're right, it is still a piece of paper that I take out and show, and I'm going to be traveling to Spain soon for a trip, and I'm going to have to take my piece of paper out and show them. So is your product, can you scale it globally? Would we be able to use it overseas?
Yes, so the whole idea around VAC Mobile is that we really want to stop this nonsense of you having all this panic about, oh my gosh, I have this piece of paper and I better not lose it. We want you to be able to have your card safely stored in our HIPAA compliant data center, and from there for you to be able to share that credential as you need to, and have enterprises have a measure of trust assurance that that credential that you're sharing, that somebody's done maybe a little bit of verification on the back end to make sure that it is a good credential. And that's what we're doing, and it's all seamless end-to-end digital, but absolutely this is globally scalable, and that's what's so important right now, because unfortunately worldwide the same problems that we're dealing with these paper vaccination credentials, that's the case all around the globe. So that's what we set out to solve.
That's awesome. I can't wait for that to be worldwide so that I can use it and not have to carry my vaccine card around. I've already had to get one replacement. So you're also an entrepreneur, so let's hear about your company.
Which one?
Whichever one you want to talk about, or all of them. But we only have 5 minutes.
I know. So I just launched an e-commerce brand.
Very nice.
CPG focused world that really focuses on the underserved founder and bringing those products to market.
Nice.
So that's my 5th company.
Nice.
And it's the first one that takes me back to my roots of being in technology plus e-commerce plus retail. So I'm really excited to bring more brands and that strategy to life outside of the kind of Amazon or digital world where we lose sight of them being sustainable, woman-owned, LGBTQ-owned, Black or brown founders, and I'm really passionate about getting this thing off the ground to get these emerging brands into the marketplace so we can consume them, so we can find them, and that it has a centralized location.
Another great timing. I mean, those 3 worlds are colliding right now. It's
I hope so.
Great space.
So
why Atlanta? Each of you have companies, and why did you choose Atlanta to build and scale those companies? Whichever one wants to start.
Yeah, for me, I mean, this is a nexus intersection of culture, of music, of media, of technology, of fintech, of HR tech, and so it's where all these worlds are colliding. So when I think about the sensation of bringing commerce to Atlanta, it's a no-brainer. If I think about doing business in another part of this country, Atlanta's kind of the headquarters with those fingers out to the other territories that we serve. It's really, a great economic development capital. And with, again, the growing platform of media and content on the rise, it's, for us, we have the talent, the resources, the university system, and we are creating the social impact strategies that are driving other communities.
I love it. Yes, I love that you bring up the social impact
And a good
work.
commercial for you.
I love it. Thank you for that. So much social impact work happening. What about you, Jennifer?
Well, for us, Atlanta was a very logical choice. You have, obviously, this is the headquarters for the CDC. You have CARE. You have the Carter Center. You have Habitat for Humanity International. And so you have a lot of organizations, as well as the Task Force on Global Health, based here in Atlanta, that are really caring about public health from a global perspective. And for us, at the core of VAC Mobile, we've worked really hard to make sure that this is an app that is working, mindful of CDC guidelines and really helping basically protect health, right? Because at the end of the day, if you have all that data in the palm of your hand, and you know what you need for yourself and your minor loved ones and maybe even an aging parent, everybody's going to be healthier. And so we're delighted to be working right here in Atlanta.
Yes, for the good of the community. Well, we love that. Well, Christy, Jennifer, thank you so much for being here and chatting with us today. We wish you the best of luck scaling your businesses in Atlanta, and we're thrilled that you're helping us grow Atlanta. So thank you for that.
Absolutely.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Absolutely.
to the Atlanta Innovation Digital Studio, broadcasting live from Venture Atlanta. So excited today to have two great Atlanta companies with us, Adwat Joshi and Short Van Ott.
Yes. You did well.
From Gift, yes. So two fintech companies in a little bit different space from one another. So I love both the models, but definitely a little bit different kind of technical audiences, so to speak. So we'll start with just an introduction of your company and what you're doing. So let's start with you, just a quick intro about Data Seers and what y'all do.
Sure. So my name is Adwat Joshi and I'm the Chief Seer at Data Seers. And what we really do is we help anyone who is in the payment space or banking space with really four things: compliance issues, right? BSA, AML, onboarding, and consumer compliance, fraud issues, reconciling the payments, making sure that all money adds up, and then providing analytics back to what are your customers doing, how are you making money, how can you make more money, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And all of that is done with a single API, so you just send us the data once, and all of these tools do their magic. So that's what the company does, and we mainly work with issuing banks and card products and other fintechs like cryptos in the industry.
And your company is very interesting. Let's hear a little bit about that.
Yeah, I'm Sjoerd van Oort, so I'm the founder and CEO of Gift, and we're a Dutch startup, which is the #1 giving application in the Netherlands.
Oh, nice.
And I would dare to say that we're the only giving application which thinks and believes giving is fundamentally different from paying, and that we should stop focusing on the needs of the charity and focus on the needs of the giver to increase the willingness to give.
I love that.
Thank you.
Nice. So kind of digging in a little bit. So I know that most people that give, I was reading that they're mostly individuals, right? Not big corporations. So your product is designed to help them specifically. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, we're focused on the individual regular giver, not even the high net worth giver. High net worth givers already have great resources to understand what they want to impact and to be notified about the opportunities and to get insight what the effect was. And we want to bring that to every single giver, even if you donate $10 a year. So we do three things. We've created a seamless way for instant cashless giving, but including a gesture, because most of the time when people give, the primary reason to do that is to express themselves, to show that you're engaged or show your commitment or you appreciate something. If you take that element away, you only take care of the financial transaction, you take away an essential element of giving. And secondly, we want to help people by our digital giving assistant to better understand what do we want to impact, notify them about opportunities. So not because your name is in the database, you're getting mail from every charity, but because you want to impact local poverty, you'll be notified about the campaign of a certain charity in your neighborhood, for instance. And the third thing is we want to secure the future of giving, so we need to include the children. So we're building a children platform, allowing me, for instance, to let my 5-year-old daughter or my 10-year-old son to experience giving in a fun way, in their user experience, maybe as a Disney princess or whatever, but guided by me as a parent, so they can learn it in a safe way, because with digital giving, children learn by seeing others giving, but how can you see somebody giving if there's no cash anymore?
That's very cool. I mean, the market of fintech is just growing so much. You have a completely different market. Tell us a little bit about who your market is and how you help them.
Absolutely. So, what he was saying earlier, when money starts exchanging hands and when people start paying each other, it's only getting faster and faster and faster, right? So everybody is doing P2P transactions, moving money. Now cross-border is hitting up. We are sending money from here to wherever. Visa is getting into their B2B Connect program, where you can transfer money from one bank to the other bank using those kind of rails. Well, you have to worry about fraud, right? So last year, in the past year and a half, how much money have we lost to unemployment fraud and PPP fraud? And it's counting. The government awarded a $1.3 billion contract to LexisNexis to go and find these individuals and where the data went, right? So somebody's paying $1.5 billion almost to find these people, how much money is actually lost, right? And if you go on Krebs on security, it's not getting any better. They're just moving from one place to the other place to the other place. So then you sit back and think, how can I catch these people? I don't want that happening on my platform. So no matter who you are, everybody wants the consumer, but nobody wants the fraud. But it's there, right? The moment you start, you open your gates I was talking to a fintech recently, and they said, well, we know that we're going to have fraud. We knew this from the day we put our business plan together. I'm like, good, because most people don't think that they have fraud until they have fraud, and then millions are lost.
Forethought is good.
Exactly. So that's where we come in. We come in because we see so much data, and we have seen so much data, and we have products all the way from entering the system, so onboarding, KYC, AML, all of that, ongoing, which is transaction monitoring, looking at your behavior, are you doing something suspicious, and then reporting you to the law enforcement. Right? And it becomes an important piece because all those 3 dots are connected now. You don't have to jump through hoops. Like earlier, Sunira mentioned to me that we have 99,000 solutions, right? But they're all kind of interconnected, and we just need one. Well, that's where we come in. We are the one. We have connected on the back to whoever we need to connect to, so that we can provide you a single source of information and accuracy. And so that's what we are seeing in the market. Fraud's just getting worse and worse. Compliance issues are getting worse and worse. 2 days ago, there was an enforcement action came from CFPB for JPay. They were basically fined $6 million for incorrectly charging fees to the consumers, and that's going to increase. And while that increases, we are the ones that keep these companies in compliance so that they don't have to pay those fines.
You're data seers.
Exactly.
I mean, hey,
And it's great that these companies exist because we want to focus on adding value in the user experience, but we're forced to do things like KYC and everything. You don't want to build it all yourself. You just want to use something so you can focus on.
Keep you safe.
Yeah, so we can focus on where we add value, and not focus on the back end on this stuff. Yeah.
Exactly. So you keep doing your business, and we do what we do best, right?
Awesome. So you're a newcomer to Atlanta, and you've been here for a while, or your company. So just quickly, why Atlanta, and why do you think Atlanta is a good place to build your business? We'll start with you, Dwight.
Well, I think we have amazing talent. The universities are feeding. Tommy is running a great program on the fintech side. So that's producing newer and newer candidates because we understand that there is a lack of talent everywhere when it comes to financial services and fintech.
You have an incredibly international team.
We have an international team. We have moved people from outside. We directly go to colleges. We recruit the smartest kids out of colleges and we bring them here. But talent is number one. Second is the transaction alley, right? Everybody is here. So if you are in financial services, you can meet everybody without traveling at all. And third is Delta and the airport. I mean, come on. We can go anywhere in the world with a single nonstop flight. And that just makes Atlanta the perfect spot. And the weather, we don't have snow.
I mean, come on.
Come on. How can you not like that?
Week,
exactly.
Right? What about you?
Yeah, we come to Atlanta because it's a center for fintech, but also because our go-to-market strategy is through churches. That's the first place where we generate users, and it's also center of the Bible Belt in the US, so it makes sense to go here. It's closer to our time zone in the Netherlands, which in the starting phase is relevant because we will be collaborating. We won't have a full team up and running from day one. So yeah, that's the reason.
And a direct flight from Atlanta to Amsterdam.
Yeah.
Gotta
Delta.
love that. Thank you, Delta.
Yeah.
Yes. Wonderful. Well, we're so happy that both of y'all are in Atlanta. So if anyone wanted to, if you have a call to action, do you have a call to action for our audience that you might want to make? If they wanted to reach you, how would they do that?
We're opening up around for our U.S. expansion, so we're open to, we want U.S. investors. We understand that U.S. investors understand what is needed to build a platform, and they can reach out to us. It's GIVT, and my name is too difficult to spell it now. But if you contact GIVT, givt.app,
nice,
and ask for the guy with the complicated name, then you'll reach out to me. Yeah.
What about you?
All right. So dataseers.ai. We are out on all social media, and we are looking for talent. So if you're looking for work, we have a very diverse team. We speak 17 native languages on staff. We have people from all over the world, and we are looking for diverse people. So come work for us, come work with us while we build this organization. So dataseers.ai.
And you're going to be at Money 2020 next week?
I will be in Money 2020 next week, and I will be at our Atlanta party on Tuesday.
There we go. Fabulous. Well, thank you both so much for being here. Your companies are wonderful. We're thrilled that you're growing in Atlanta, and we appreciate that you making this your home and spending some time with us today.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Venture Atlanta as we start wrapping up today here at the Atlanta Innovation Studio, powered by Mailchimp. I'm Alex Gonzalez, Chief Innovation Officer for the Metro Atlanta Chamber. And here to wrap up today, our day today is Mike Becker of FOCAP Partners, but also I would say just an ecosystem builder as well. Because I know you've been
in it a long time.
For a while, you've been a key part of Venture Atlanta as well, of course.
I've been on the board now, I think, for 6 years.
Yeah.
So about a little bit less than half of its life cycle.
Yeah.
And I've gone from being an entrepreneur in this community and raising capital back in the kind of late 90s, early 2000s, through to being on the venture capital side and being a part of the rocket ship that is Venture Atlanta.
Yeah, so give some context then. Like, talk about raising capital in the late 90s, early 2000s to today in Atlanta, because it's I imagine it's pretty extreme.
It was a pretty different world, yeah. I mean, if you contrasted it, if you were an entrepreneur back at that time period and you were raising capital, and certainly it was the dot-com heyday and there was a lot going on, but from an Atlanta and a Southeast perspective, there were maybe 3 people you could talk to. There were just not a lot of funds that were based here, and raising capital, you had to, for the most part, go out of region. Particularly, I mean, the focus of the few that were here were pretty narrow. And so if you contrast that from not just a venture capital perspective, but from an infrastructure perspective, I would say the main things that have changed is take those 2 or 3 players, and it's 15 plus that are headquartered here. I'm not talking, you could quadruple that number in terms of the number of firms that actively are seeking to place money in Atlanta and in the region, but headquartered here, just a lot more people that you can go to, investing in a lot of different styles at a lot of different stages. We have seed funds, we have Series A like VOCAP, we've got the folks that are kind of the Series B, C players, and then of course private equity side is here as well. That's just the capital side of it. If you just look at the basic infrastructure, you know, what happens, and this is really the core reason that I've been involved in Venture Atlanta, every time you grow a company here, right, the middle level of managers in that splinter off and start the next group of companies, and that builds on each other. And we've always had a base of great Fortune 500, Fortune 1000 companies that are headquartered here, that have innovation centers here. You know, we've got Georgia Tech, we've got Emory, we've got a lot of the universities. What has really changed from that kind of 99, 2000 time period to now is the density of talent in the entrepreneurial ecosystem. Right, because after Tom Noonan does ISS, and then you just kind of ripple through Mailchimp. You've got Pindrop, you've got SalesLoft, you've got Calendly now. I mean, we could go on and on. All of that brings talent here, and all of that talent then splinters off and starts the next thing. And so, as a venture capitalist who's based here, I often get the question, well, why are you recruiting other capital to come in and invest here? Because rising tide lifts all boats.
Absolutely, and what's interesting too, what you just mentioned with the talent, that's kind of been a big theme over the last few days. It seems like here, where just recognition that now we finally have scale for these companies. So you have founders either going on to create other companies, or their executives or whatever. So we're finally, everything is finally arrived. Everything's kind of colliding right now. So let's go back to Venture Atlanta though, because one thing we have not talked about is, why does Venture Atlanta even exist? What kind of was, why did we even start this, and why is it so important for us?
So it originally came together really, the 3 founding entities were the Technology Association of Georgia, the Atlanta CEO Council, and the Metro Atlanta Chamber. And I think at the time, each of the three organizations were kind of doing their own thing and running their own events. And there was a realization that if we pooled this, we could really create a level of quality and attraction that was going to be stronger. Right. And now you couple that with Alan Mosley on the venture capital side and some of the other firms that were in town at that point, and that really brought the ecosystem together. That was the start of it. And if you asked Allison about our CEO about that time period, she would say, yeah, well, we had maybe 20 people and a couple of sponsors, and now we've gone from 20 to 1,200, and it's this is a $1 million operation now that really draws a nationwide audience to really the best of the Southeast.
Yeah, and I was going to ask that. This is as much about Atlanta at the center, but this is really a national event, right? I mean, or even
we are
global,
totally a national event. It is a Southeastern showcase that draws a national audience and an international audience increasingly. Yeah. So it's Atlanta's the hub of the spokes that we pull together to this, and we actually have a series of sub events leading up to it now in a lot of different southeastern cities, where we're making sure that we're surfacing the talent there as well, and then we bring it together for really a week long of great events this week.
Yeah, and it's great to see that. Now of course we're going to Atlanta Innovation Week and all this going on. Yep. The energy is just tremendous. It's great also having everybody in person again.
It is. It's look, virtual has its benefits, and we can draw a broader pool with it. But being in person, it's the serendipity that happens. Yeah. The people that you bump into. Right. It just all, and it's actually we connect companies with capital, but if you think about it, so much more happens here. Right. Talent connections happen. I was just having lunch with a good friend at Fulcrum who introduced me to a guy who's leads up the charge on go-to-market with a lot of different companies, and I can now connect that individual to my companies. Right. So it's more than just the investor meetings that happen.
So sometimes you have to be intentional to create accidental meetings that lead onto something.
That's right.
So before we wrap up here, let's talk about the future here. Where do you see Atlanta and this region going in terms of being this startup hub, tech center, innovation center?
Yeah, it's a great question. You kind of look at where we've gotten to at this point. I think the latest stats I saw were, I think Atlanta, or at least Georgia, through maybe first 6 months of the year had drawn $2 billion in investments. Yeah. It was a fraction of that if we go back even 5 years ago. Right. So where could we go with this? I easily see that doubling or tripling if you go out over a 5 to 7 year horizon, and I see it because of the momentum that's happening. Just like we rattled off all those companies that, the unicorns that we're creating here, every one of those companies is going to create more. That talent will draw more capital. So I think you and I could be sitting in the same chair 5 years from now and putting off some numbers that are really strong multiples of where we are today.
A lot of Mailchimps.
A lot of Mailchimps.
That's right.
I got a big laugh out of Ben saying that, that wasn't an exit.
Exactly right.
I would like to have a $12 billion non-exit.
Exactly.
Let me put that out there.
That Ben's here, still investing in
It's awesome that he's supporting the ecosystem like that.
That's so good for us.
Yeah, and Invesco and all the sponsors that come behind this.
Well, good. Well, thanks for everything you've done. Thanks for everything you continue to do here at Venture Atlanta, and really for building the innovation ecosystem.
Well, thanks. VoCap's excited to be a part about it. We put a lot of money into Georgia and the ecosystem in the Southeast, and we intend to do more.
Well, thank you, and thank you everybody as we wrap up day 2 of 3 in the Atlanta Innovation Studio powered by Mailchimp. We're wrapping up here at Venture Atlanta today. We will be moving over to A3C tomorrow for the Atlanta Innovation Studio powered by Mailchimp. And so we're going to have investors. We're going to have people like David Cummings and Paul Judge. We're also going to have the president of Turtle Studios. We're going to have people from universities. We're going to have more entrepreneurs like Jasmine Crow. It's going to be quite a day over at A3C. So until then, have a good evening, and we'll see you tomorrow at A3C.